February 2, 2024, News Report 1. Australia and New Zealand conducted a 2+2 meeting of their foreign and defence ministers on February 1, followed by the issuance of a joint statement. The statement expressed strong opposition from Australia and New Zealand on issues related to the East China Sea and South China Sea, explicitly opposing any actions that escalate tensions in the East China Sea, disrupt peace and stability, and constitute coercive unilateral actions. Regarding the Taiwan issue, both countries reiterated the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, advocating for a peaceful resolution through dialogue across the strait, opposing any unilateral changes to the status quo, and calling for the avoidance of threats or coercion. The joint statement also conveyed serious concerns from Australia and New Zealand on issues concerning Xinjiang, Tibet, and Hong Kong. Both countries expressed deep concern about human rights violations in Xinjiang, erosion of religious, cultural, educational, linguistic, and freedom aspects in Tibet, and the systematic destruction of autonomy, freedom, power, and democratic processes in Hong Kong. On February 2, the Chinese ambassador to New Zealand published a statement on WeChat, criticizing Australia and New Zealand for interfering in China's internal affairs, expressing strong dissatisfaction. The statement accused Australia and New Zealand of making excessively strong accusations against China and implied that New Zealand was returning to the Five Eyes alliance, indicating a more assertive foreign policy. News Report 2. According to France's Radio France Internationale, the European Solar Manufacturing Council urgently wrote to the European Commission on January 30, requesting measures to restrict the entry of Chinese photovoltaic products into the European market within 4 to 8 weeks. This move is aimed at saving the European solar industry. The European Solar Manufacturing Council represents 80% of the interests in the EU market, covering 80 companies across the entire European photovoltaic industry. The European Solar Manufacturing Council stated that from 2022 to 2023, an oversupply of photovoltaic components from China led to a sharp decline in prices, forcing European manufacturers to reduce production, resulting in severe product backlog. To address this issue, the Council called on the European Commission to take 3 comprehensive measures immediately. First, the EU should purchase European solar photovoltaic inventories. Second, the EU should support financing projects for European manufacturers. Third, expedite the formulation of regulations to prohibit the use of solar panels produced by forced labor to reduce excessive dependence on a single country, referring to China. Chinese customs data showed that China's exports of solar photovoltaic cells to the EU were $22.6 billion in 2022, which dropped to $19.1 billion by the end of last year, 2023. This indicates that the photovoltaic industry has become a focal point in the trade dispute between the EU and China. At the same time, the EU is investigating China's electric vehicle subsidy issue, which may lead to import tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. In addition, China's anti-dumping investigation into EU brandy has triggered a trade dispute. This series of issues has impacted the economies of France and other European countries. News Report 3. According to Reuters, the Chinese ambassador to Ukraine met with Ukrainian officials in January, requesting the removal of 14 Chinese companies from the list of international supporters of war. This list involves companies supporting Russia. Subsequently, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine released a list of 48 companies, including 14 Chinese companies such as PetroChina, Sinopec, Sinuk, China Railway Construction, Alibaba, and Hikvision. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine pointed out that these companies assisted or promoted Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Chinese ambassador to Ukraine told Ukrainian officials that including Chinese companies in the list would have a negative impact on the bilateral relationship, but did not specify the nature of the impact. While the Chinese ambassador did not mention specific negative impacts, Ukrainian officials are concerned that China may link this issue to its grain purchases from Ukraine. According to Ukrainian government statistics, 30% of the grain exported to China since August last year includes food, metals, and minerals. Despite the widely known accusation of China supporting Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Ukrainian government still needs to respond to this issue. News Report 4. As reported by Reuters, in recent weeks, Japanese diplomats have been in contact with individuals closely associated with former President Trump. Japanese officials hope to convey a message through these individuals, urging Trump not to engage in trade with China. Specifically, they are concerned that if Trump returns to power, he may engage in trade deals with China, such as selling grain or reaching security agreements. This could undermine the efforts of the G7 countries to counter China. The Japanese government is also concerned that Trump may weaken U.S. support for Taiwan and consider using tariff measures to strike Japan, demanding more payment for the costs of U.S. troops stationed in Japan. Trump has been inclined towards unilateralism during his tenure, reluctant to engage in multilateral cooperation, preferring individual negotiations with leaders such as Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un. Currently, Trump is running for office again, posing challenges not only to Japan but also to the United States and the European Union. Trump's diplomatic style has been described as a disconnected archipelago, where relationships seem unrelated, presenting a complex challenge to the international political landscape. News Report 5. According to U.S. economic reports, on February 1, the U.S. Congressional Executive Commission on China held a hearing to discuss the human rights situation in China. During the hearing, Roger Rogers, founder of the Hong Kong Watch, stated that 68 civil society organizations in Hong Kong have been forced to close, and over 1,000 political prisoners, including Chinese human rights activist Jimmy Lai, have been detained. Lai has become a symbol of China's human rights violations. Rogers also pointed out that the proposed legislation under Article 23 of the Basic Law would further infringe on Hong Kong's freedom of speech, urging the UK to impose sanctions on Hong Kong, similar to the US approach. Dr. Dex, a researcher at the Citizen Lab of the University of Toronto, emphasized during the hearing that internet censorship affects the freedom of speech of Chinese citizens, and he requested U.S. companies such as Microsoft and Apple to explain how they implement political and religious censorship on their platforms in China. Dr. Dex highlighted the involvement of these companies in restricting freedom of speech, calling for more attention to the limitations on freedom of speech. Chinese human rights lawyer Ding Jiaxi and his wife Luo Xingchun expressed concern about Chinese human rights lawyer Su Zhiyong during the hearing. Su Zhiyong's family's request to meet him in prison was rejected, and Chinese prisons even threatened to send Su Zhiyong's family to prison. Luo Xingchun criticized the Chinese government's persecution of human rights defenders. This hearing highlighted the international community's concerns about China's human rights situation and the accountability of U.S. companies operating in China regarding human rights issues. News Report 6. The South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff announced on February 2 that North Korea had launched a cruise missile from Pyongan Province to the Western Sea at 11 a.m. The missile had a flight time of several tens of minutes, covering a distance of less than 1,500 kilometers. This marks North Korea's fourth test launch of the Puksuksong-3 cruise missile in the past 10 days. On January 28, North Korea conducted a nearshore launch of the Puksuksong-3 missile in South Hamgyong Province, and on January 30, another launch was conducted towards the Western Sea using the Puksuksong-2 missile. These consecutive missile tests indicate North Korea's provocative actions, challenging stability on the Korean peninsula. Simultaneously, the Korean Central News Agency reported that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected the Nampo shipbuilding factory on February 2, focusing on naval vessel construction. Kim urged the acceleration of war preparations, strengthening the construction of naval vessels to enhance the Navy's combat capabilities, and promoting the modernization of North Korea's shipbuilding industry. However, achieving this goal may face challenges unless supported by China or Russia. Currently, Russia's involvement in this regard appears limited. News Report 7. According to data released by the U.S. Department of Labor on February 2, the non-farm payrolls in the United States increased by 353,000 in January, significantly exceeding the market's expected 180,000, with an unemployment rate of 3.7%, below the anticipated 3.8%. Private sector employment increased by 317,000, nearly double the market's expected 155,000. Manufacturing jobs increased by 23,000, 3.6 times the market's expectation. Meanwhile, the average hourly earnings in the United States rose by 0.6% month-on-month in January, surpassing the market's expected 0.3%, marking the highest increase since March 2022. This data reflects the robust performance of the U.S. labor market, with companies willing to offer higher wages to retain employees. In this scenario, a recession in the U.S. economy seems less likely. However, interestingly, the Federal Reserve's Watch tool shows a decrease in the probability of a 25 basis point rate cut in March from 35.5% to 21.5%. This raises questions, as a rate cut is less likely in a strong economic situation. Some analysts suggest that market expectations for a rate cut are now more focused on May, with the probability of a 25 basis point rate cut increasing from 60% to 63.6%. Overall, this aligns with Federal Reserve Chair Powell's statement in January that, although a rate cut might occur at some point this year, it is unlikely to be in March. News Report 8. According to reports from Old Asia Radio, Zhou Hongsheng, the director of the Ulvexinen Hospital in Liaocheng City, Shandong Province, announced a 10-day hunger strike as a protest. The reason behind this protest is the hospital's failure to pay its employees for 8 months. Zhou expressed deep remorse and is undertaking the hunger strike to alleviate his own guilt, demonstrating that he is a conscientious hospital director. Ulvexinen Hospital is a private hospital established in July 2015, with a registered capital of 250 million yuan, fully owned by the Xiangrui Group, where Zhou Hongsheng is also the general manager of Xiangrui International. The hospital, which originally had 600 employees, owes each employee an average of over 20,000 yuan, with a total debt of 180 million yuan. Currently, more than 200 employees have resigned, leaving over 400. In a video, hospital staff held banners with the message, "Please give 400 employees a chance, give Ulvexinen Hospital a chance to reorganize." Zhou Hongsheng stated in his speech that the hospital is unable to continue operations not because they refuse to admit patients, but because medical supplies have run out, making it impossible to treat patients. He hopes to receive an opportunity for restructuring. The specific reasons behind this situation are not clear, but financial pressures on the hospital appear to have led to wage arrears for employees and a shortage of medical resources. News Report 9. According to the announcement from the China Meteorological Administration on February 1, an orange alert for freezing rain was issued for central and western Taiwan, marking the first time China has issued an orange alert for freezing rain. Freezing rain warnings are uncommon, and the orange alert is the highest level. Freezing rain is a meteorological disaster with destructive consequences. After freezing rain occurs, people are advised to avoid going out as much as possible, take precautions for warmth and slip resistance, prioritize public transportation, reduce the use of bicycles, electric scooters, and walking, and maintain a safe distance from vehicles. From February 1 to February 4, Hunan, Hubei, Anhui, Jiangsu, Hunan, Guizhou, and Chongqing are expected to experience continuous freezing rain, with amounts ranging from 2 mm to 8 mm, and in some places, exceeding 10 mm, due to freezing rain. Highways such as Dagang 2, Guangzhou 2, and Guangzhou Jingao may experience snow accumulation or icing, leading to traffic congestion or blockages. Drivers are reminded to pay attention to traffic safety. In addition, on February 2, the China Meteorological Administration also issued a yellow alert for heavy snow. It is expected that from February 2 to February 3, there will be heavy to blizzard conditions in Hunan, Anhui, Jiangsu, Hubei, Hunan, Chongqing, and Guizhou, with Hubei possibly experiencing a blizzard, and snow depths are expected to reach 20 mm to 25 mm. News Report 10. According to a notice released by the Shanghai Road Transport Management Bureau on January 29, ride-hailing services are strictly prohibited from operating at Pudong Airport, especially during the Spring Festival travel rush. The Transportation Bureau stated that due to an oversupply of taxis at Pudong Airport, taxi drivers have to wait 5 to 6 hours to get a business, while ride-hailing drivers can pick up passengers within 5 to 6 minutes. To ensure the operation of this crucial hub, the decision was made to prioritize taxi services. However, there is public skepticism about the legitimacy of this decision, as it is seen as unjustifiably restricting the rights of ride-hailing platform drivers, violating fair competition rights between ride-hailing and taxi services. Legal professionals, such as Qin Yifeng, the vice dean of the law school at East China University of Political Science and Law, have expressed that this move is evidently unreasonable. In contrast to Shanghai, on February 1, the Guangzhou Municipal Government Information Office held a press conference, where Zhang Ji, deputy director of the Guangzhou Municipal Transportation Bureau, stated that ride-hailing services are encouraged to pick up orders at the airport. This move is interpreted as a certain degree of support for ride-hailing operations at the airport, contrasting sharply with Shanghai's ban.